these projects building on Pulsechain, I have this comparison to the .com bubble. In the same way that during the .com era, which you lived through, so I'm sure you remember it very well. But
oh, thanks, man. Let's point that out.
yeah. But basically, you had all these ICOs and these companies that they added the .com because that was the hot thing. That was the hot cake. It was the hot ecosystem. They put a .com on the ticker, and all of a sudden, their stock skyrocketed. Their stock skyrocketed. Their equity skyrocketed.
Oh, you mean what they're doing with Pulse?
So every single new project building on Pulse, or not even building on Pulse, but they're an ERC20, and since they'll get copied over, they put Pulse on it, and they throw a sacrifice, and they're able to raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, basically because they put the Pulse on it. So what's your thought of the comparison? The only difference I say also is that, okay, just what's your thought on the comparison? Yeah,
sounds like a smart way to make a quick buck.
Oh yeah.
Does it mean that it's going to develop or do anything later? Probably not. But it's a smart way to make a quick buck. That's what I think. So that goes back into, again, people don't understand the rarity of anything in crypto actually doing what it's supposed to do. And for the most part, it doesn't have to, because people will buy anything. It doesn't have to. It's not your opinion. It's the market's opinion. If the market buys it, the price will go up. It doesn't matter whether or not you like that coin or not, So I could look at something and say it's absolutely useless to me, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to buy it, And I think what you're saying is very true. Yeah, people are utilizing the Pulse branding in order to market a thing. That's typical.
Yeah, and I think the difference though is that, first of all, the .com bubble was regulated. I mean, you did have to you had to register with SEC for an ICO, right? You couldn't be anonymous. You couldn't hide behind a pseudonym and not showing your face. You had to suffer legal repercussions. So it's like just that much more risky. And also, you don't benefit from all the money raised from the sacrifice. At least in the .com bubble, if you got in on that hot thing early and you sold it, like you made money. Here, you're not. It's good. It's very good for these founders who may or may not be scammers or may not have good intentions. They're able to raise a lot of money, but I don't think it's good to the sacrificers, investors, whatever you call it. And also, people don't consider the impermanent loss, because with your money, which is scarce, I'm saying people like to say, oh yeah, Hex is going to do well anyway because money is abundant. It's like, yeah, money's abundant, but not my money. My money could either go to Hex, Pulsechain, or I could wait till Pulsechain launches and buy Pulsechain or PulseX, or I could go into your Pulse fill in the blank thing. And if your thing doesn't do well, that's impermanent loss. So what's your thoughts on that?
So here's the problem that we did have. Because Pulse took so long, we did have all these other sacrifices geared and everything. And first of all, people became accustomed to things, right? Just like people come from the fiat world and they come into crypto and they immediately look for a middleman to give their money to, right? That's what they do, because that's what they're used to. Oh, I've got to give my money to somebody else so they can make more money for me. That's what I got to do.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the sacrifice thing was. In all actuality, that should have scared most investors off. When Richard said, we're doing a sack phase, you are no expectations. This is just sacrifice. It's for freedom of speech. You ain't getting nothing. That was meant to scare people off. It didn't, because people had already seen what he had done and he had already had a track record. So people threw mad money at it, right? Now, the next phase of sacrifices and stuff came along. Well, these are people that were basically copying that same sort of launch phase, but not necessarily having the accreditation, or the support that they should have. But because people were used to the first sacrifice, they're like, it's just another sacrifice. Let me throw money at this too. And it worked, because they got lots of money. Now, what they're going to do with it and what they're going to develop and whatever. But here's the point. This hurt Hex price, because you had people that were a small group that had limited amount of resources. Now they're throwing their money in all these multiple different directions. Okay. Even the things that removed coins from the market and reduced the supply and put things away in the future, they now became competitive products. Why? Because it was another option to split your money, your limited resources, and split your money in those multiple directions. So more and more things have come along that hexagons have split their money in those multiple directions. Whether or not that was the intent or not, whether or not, whatever, but we're at the price level we are, not because the market's crashing. No. We are at the place where we are right now because, one, people are not buying anything. Two, when they are buying something, they have all of these different directions to split their funds. So that limited amount of resources has very little impact on the price because now it's being spread out in multiple directions. Now, the thing with the derivatives is very interesting. If you buy Hex, all the derivatives go up. But if you buy the derivative, only the derivative goes up. So where really should you be putting your money? Should you be putting it in all these other derivatives? Or should you be putting it into Hex so that the derivatives that you do hold go up in value? It's kind of interesting when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. So my take on the derivatives really is I don't like it that in the sense that it strays from the ethos of Hex of delaying gratification and promising not to sell.
It does.
And I mean, but as far as but I think eventually if the price of the derivatives pumps to where it's at such a premium, I mean, it's going to get sold off in arbitrage. So I think ultimately it really sort of balances out. But at the same time, it people that think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to buy the derivatives, you're not going to make, especially if you're not wealthy, you're not going to make that life-changing wealth. I mean, the numbers,
all that
odds are you're not going to make it.
All that economic energy could have never left Hex. The same with the sacrifices. That was money that has left Hex. That is money that will be sold on the market.
Yeah, but
you have given Hex away to people that are going to sell it onto the market to do their funding.
Yeah, but like, so you could say in the beginning the derivatives were bought up. Otherwise people wouldn't have bought Hex to mint Maxi or or something, or like make an HSI.
I don't believe that people bought Hex to mint Maxi. I don't believe that. I believe people use their liquid to mint it, and the chain analysis will show a lot of people took their Hex and did that. And I mean that is becoming part of somebody else's pool, so that is. So initially it works out great because it does remove Hex from the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the downside is now that's a second option to purchase.
Yeah.
And now not only do we have that second option, we have 5 more other options to purchase. So if you take a $5 bill, now that's $1 in each, So instead of $5 going into the one thing that boosts everything.
Yeah, but if the premium goes up so high, don't you think people would dump it and then go back into Hex? So I think ultimately it sort of balances out. Is that fair?
Yeah, it will, but I mean, at the moment, at the moment, it's we're at a bad point where there's too many options and very little money, and when people are being very frugal about what they spend their money on, and that's the macro market is when nobody's buying nothing. No prices go up.
And I think a thing is people don't like buying bottoms. People like buying tops. So I think that's another part of it.
We are a couple green candles away from everybody being happy again. And that's it. I mean, like literally, dude, we go up a 9x and like it's going to be like fireworks going off, and then everybody's going to be FOMOing back in.
Yep.
And then that's how it works. That's how these systems work.
That's why I'm more concerned when it comes to like these like new sacrifices for these Pulse fill in the blank projects about like people that otherwise could have bought Pulse or Hex and gotten rich. I think Hex is going to do fine. The question is, are you going to do fine? That's really the question.